The council chamber fell silent as the Zogarian warlord's image dissolved into the air. The ultimatum was clear. Earth must surrender or face annihilation. Captain Liam Hargrove stood near the back, his jaw set, his mind already formulating strategies. Earth was still recovering from recent internal conflicts and economic turmoil. Its defenses were strained, leading many to believe the planet couldn't withstand another major threat. This belief had emboldened the Zogarian collective, who now saw Earth as vulnerable prey. Hargrove, a seasoned officer known for his strategic acumen, carried the weight of a past mission that ended in disaster, haunting him daily. His British heritage was evident in his precise manner of speech and disciplined approach to command. Earth's leaders convened in a heated debate. President Marlowe, a pragmatic and cautious leader, opened the floor. We must consider all options, including surrender. Our resources are depleted, and the Zogarians are a formidable foe. General Thompson, head of the defense forces, shook his head. Surrender means subjugation or worse. We need to fight, but we need a strategy that plays to our strengths. Hargrove stepped forward. With respect, we cannot match them in a direct confrontation. But we can outthink them. The Zogarians underestimate us. That is our advantage. He outlined his plan with precision. Instead of a head-on battle, they would use guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run strikes, and electronic warfare to disrupt the Zogarian forces. They would exploit their overconfidence, turning Earth's supposed weakness into a strategic advantage. Lieutenant Marcus Daniels, a bright young tactician, supported Hargrove's plan. Captain Hargrove's strategy could buy us time to understand their technology and find more weaknesses. Dr. Evelyn Shaw, an expert in alien technology, added, "If we can capture even one of their ships intact, I might be able to reverse engineer their systems to give us a fighting chance." The council was divided. Some leaders were swayed by Hargrove's confidence and the support from his colleagues, while others remained skeptical. The room buzzed with arguments and counterarguments, the weight of the decision pressing down on everyone. "Enough," President Marlowe finally said. "Captain Hargrove, you have our support. Make the necessary preparations. May your strategy be as effective as you believe." The Terran fleet, though outnumbered and outgunned, began to mobilize. Hargrove worked tirelessly, coordinating with Daniels and Shaw to refine their plans and prepare the fleet for the coming battles. They knew that their survival depended on meticulous planning and flawless execution. As the fleet assembled, alarms blared across the command center. A Zogarian warship had been detected, descending toward Earth's atmosphere. The countdown to invasion had begun. Hargrove took his place on the bridge of his command ship, the Resolute. "All units, prepare for engagement. Remember, our goal is to gather intelligence and test their defenses. We cannot afford to be reckless." Hargrove shared a quiet moment with Daniels before the battle. "This is your first major command, Marcus. Trust your instincts and remember we fight with our minds as much as our weapons." Daniels nodded, resolve etched on his young face. "I won't let you down, sir." Dr. Shaw joined Hargrove on the bridge. "We'll be monitoring their systems closely. Any weakness, any flaw, we'll find it." The atmosphere was charged with anticipation and resolve. Each character was focused, their determination solidifying as they prepared to face the Zogarian threat. The sense of unity and resolve was clear. As the Zogarian warship drew closer, Hargrove issued the final command. "Engage." The screen filled with the image of the approaching alien ship, larger and more menacing than anything Earth had ever faced. The battle for Earth had begun. The Zogarian warship loomed large on the view screen, an imposing mass of metal and menace. Hargrove barked orders, his voice steady. "All units, maintain formation. We need to draw them into our trap." His command echoed through the bridge, where every officer was laser-focused on their tasks. Lieutenant Daniels, his eyes scanning data streams, relayed critical information. "Captain, their shields have a fluctuating frequency. If we synchronize our pulse cannons, we might penetrate their defenses." Hargrove nodded, appreciating Daniel's sharp mind. "Good work, Marcus. Make the adjustments and relay them to the fleet." Dr. Shaw was huddled over her console, her fingers dancing across the interface. She was an expert in alien technologies, and her insights could turn the tide of this battle. Captain, I've accessed their communication protocols. If we can jam their signals, we might disrupt their coordination. Hargrove's plan hinged on using Earth's limited resources with maximum efficiency. The Terran fleet wasn't the largest, but it was agile and resourceful. As the Zogarian ship approached, Hargrove could sense the collective breath held across the command center. This was a critical moment, and failure was not an option. The first volley of fire erupted from the Terran ships, a coordinated burst aimed at probing the Zogarian defenses. The alien warship responded with its own barrage, energy beams slicing through the void, striking a few of the Terran vessels. Hargrove's voice cut through the chaos. Evasive maneuvers. Regroup and focus fire on their starboard side. Daniels monitored the damage reports, his face set in concentration. Captain, we've lost the Vanguard and the Phoenix is heavily damaged. The loss was a blow, but Hargrove couldn't afford to let it distract him. Understood. Redirect the remaining ships. We need to keep the pressure on. Shaw's console beeped with new data. Captain, their systems are showing signs of strain. If we can maintain this assault, we might force them to retreat. Hargrove's mind raced through the possibilities. He knew the Zogarians would not retreat easily. Their pride and arrogance were as formidable as their technology. The battle raged on, the void filled with the light of energy weapons and the wreckage of ships. Hargrove's strategy was to force the Zogarians into overextending, making them vulnerable to a decisive strike. His command ship, the Resolute, weaved through the battlefield, its guns blazing. Suddenly, an alarm blared. Incoming transmission from the Zogarian warship, Shaw announced. Hargrove narrowed his eyes. Put it through. The screen flickered to life, displaying the stern face of the Zogarian commander. Earthling, your resistance is futile. Surrender now, and I might spare your planet. Hargrove stepped forward, his expression unwavering. Your threats do not intimidate us. We will defend our home with everything we have. The Zogarian sneered. Then you will face the full might of our armada. The transmission cut off, but Hargrove had already anticipated this move. All units, execute Plan Omega, Hargrove ordered. This was the fallback plan, designed for when the enemy refused to back down. The Terran fleet shifted into a new formation, focusing their firepower on a single critical point of the Zogarian ship. The combined fire of the Terran vessels created a concentrated beam that struck the Zogarian warship's weakened shields. Sparks flew, and explosions rippled across its surface. Daniels cheered. Their shields are down. Hargrove seized the moment. Launch boarding parties. We need to capture that ship. A flurry of activity followed as shuttles launched from the Terran ships, racing towards the damaged Zogarian vessel. Marines armed and ready, prepared to breach the hull. Hargrove watched as his people executed their roles with precision and courage. This was what they had trained for. Dr. Shaw continued to feed information to the boarding parties, guiding them through the alien ship's interior. Be careful. Their internal defenses are still active. The Marines moved swiftly, disabling traps and taking control of key systems. The battle within the ship was intense, but the Terrans were relentless. Hargrove maintained his focus on the bigger picture. Daniels, status on the Zogarian reinforcements? Daniels scanned the data. Captain, they're still hours away. We have a window, but it's closing fast. Hargrove nodded. Then we make every second count. The Terran Marines reached the bridge of the Zogarian ship, securing it and taking the crew into custody. A message came through the comms. Captain, the ship is ours. Hargrove allowed himself a brief moment of relief. Excellent work. Prepare to tow it back to Earth for analysis. As the Terran fleet regrouped and began their journey home, the sense of accomplishment was tempered by the knowledge of what lay ahead. They had won a battle, but the war was far from over. Hargrove knew the Zogarians would return, and next time, they would be even more determined. Back on Earth, the captured Zogarian warship was docked at a secure military facility. Engineers and scientists swarmed over it, working tirelessly to uncover its secrets. Captain Hargrove stood beside Dr. Evelyn Shaw as they observed the progress. "We need every advantage we can get," Hargrove remarked. Shaw nodded, her expression focused. "The technology on this ship is unlike anything we've seen. If we can harness it, we might stand a chance." Lieutenant Marcus Daniels approached, his face reflecting the gravity of the situation. "Captain, we've decrypted some of their communications. It looks like the Zogarians are planning a full-scale invasion within the week." Hargrove's eyes narrowed. "Then we have less time than I hoped. We need to accelerate our efforts." As night fell, the research team continued their work. Inside the Zogarian ship, Shaw and her team had made significant progress. "This propulsion system is incredibly advanced," Shaw said, pointing to a holographic display of the ship's schematics. "If we can replicate it, our fleet could become much more maneuverable." Meanwhile, Hargrove was in a strategy meeting with Earth's top military leaders. "We need to be ready for anything," General Thompson said, his voice stern. "Our defenses must be impenetrable." Hargrove agreed. "We need to use their own technology against them. Shaw's team is working around the clock, but we also need to prepare our forces for ground combat." As the days passed, tension mounted. The research team successfully reverse-engineered several key Zogarian technologies, including advanced shielding and weaponry. "This could turn the tide," Daniels said, reviewing the data. Hargrove placed a hand on his shoulder. "Good work, Marcus. Now let's make sure we're ready to deploy these upgrades." In a secluded room, Dr. Shaw was deep in conversation with a newly arrived figure, Dr. Zalara, a defected Zogarian scientist. Her knowledge was invaluable, offering insights that even Shaw's team hadn't considered. "The Zogarian hierarchy is ruthless," Zalara explained. "They won't stop until they've crushed all resistance. But they do have weaknesses." Hargrove entered the room, intrigued by the discussion. "What kind of weaknesses?" he asked. Zalara turned to him, her eyes intense. "Their command structure is rigid. They rely heavily on central control. If we can disrupt their communications, we could throw their entire fleet into disarray." This new information galvanized the team. Plans were quickly adjusted to include strategies for disrupting the Zogarian command network. As they worked, the first signs of the impending invasion began to appear. Long-range sensors detected the Zogarian fleet assembling at the edge of the solar system. Hargrove called an emergency meeting. "We have confirmation that the Zogarian fleet is on its way. This is not a drill. All personnel are to report to their stations immediately." The command center buzzed with activity as everyone prepared for the battle to come. The sense of urgency was palpable, but Hargrove knew they had to stay focused. On the eve of the invasion, Hargrove gathered his core team. "We've come a long way in a short time. We've learned from our enemy and turned their own technology against them. Now it's up to us to defend our home. We cannot fail." The resolve in the room was unshakable. As the Zogarian fleet entered the solar system, Earth's defenses sprang into action. The upgraded Terran ships moved with newfound agility, their advanced shields deflecting enemy fire. Hargrove's command ship, the Resolute, led the charge. "Engage the disruptors," he ordered. "Let's see how they handle losing their command network." The battle was fierce. Zogarian ships, larger and more numerous, bore down on the Terran fleet. But Earth's forces fought back with a tenacity that took the invaders by surprise. Disruptors targeted the Zogarian communications, causing confusion and disarray among their ranks. Hargrove's strategy was working, but the fight was far from over. Daniels coordinated the fleet's movements with precision, his tactical acumen proving invaluable. "Focus fire on their flagships," he commanded. "If we take them out, the rest will crumble." The Terran ships executed his orders flawlessly, their combined firepower overwhelming the Zogarian defenses. Meanwhile, Shaw and Zalara worked tirelessly from the command center, monitoring the disruptors and making real-time adjustments. "We've got them on the run," Shaw said, her voice filled with determination. But Zalara was cautious. "Don't underestimate them. They will regroup." Hargrove knew she was right. The Zogarians were not defeated yet. As the battle reached its climax, the Terran fleet prepared for the final push. "All units, concentrate your fire on the remaining flagships," Hargrove ordered. The combined might of Earth's defenses bore down on the invaders, pushing them to the brink of collapse. Just as victory seemed within grasp, a massive explosion rocked the Resolute. "Damage report," Hargrove shouted. Daniels scanned the data, his face grim. "Captain, we've been hit by a kamikaze drone. Hull integrity is compromised." Hargrove clenched his fists. "All hands brace for impact. We can't let them win." As the dust settled, the remaining Zogarian ships began to retreat. Earth's defenses had held, but at a great cost. Hargrove surveyed the damage, his resolve hardened. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. He knew the Zogarians would return, and next time, they would be even more determined. With a sigh, Hargrove turned to his team. "Prepare for the next wave. This is just the beginning." As they worked to repair the damage and prepare for the inevitable counterattack, a sense of determination filled the room. Earth had survived the first onslaught, but the true test was still to come. Captain Hargrove stood on the bridge of the Resolute, his eyes scanning the data on the screen. The Zogarian fleet had retreated, but he knew this was only a temporary respite. They would return more determined than ever. Earth had to be ready. Hargrove turned to his officers. "We need to make the most of this time. Focus on repairing our defenses and integrating the captured technology." Dr. Shaw was already at work, her team tirelessly examining the Zogarian ship. "The advancements we've uncovered are extraordinary," she said, her excitement barely contained. "If we can adapt their shield technology, our ships will be far more resilient." Lieutenant Daniels, who had been overseeing the fleet's regrouping efforts, joined them. "Captain, the crews are exhausted but determined. They're ready to fight again whenever the need arises." Hargrove nodded, appreciating the resolve of his team. "We won't let their sacrifices be in vain. Keep pushing forward." As days turned into weeks, the research and repair efforts intensified. Dr. Zalara, the defected Zogarian scientist, had become an invaluable asset. Her knowledge of Zogarian tactics and technology provided crucial insights. She and Dr. Shaw worked closely, often late into the night, their combined expertise accelerating progress. One evening, Hargrove joined them in the lab. "Any breakthroughs?" he asked. Shaw looked up from her work. "We've managed to enhance our communication disruptors. If we can deploy these effectively, we could cripple their coordination in the next encounter." Zalara added, "Their fleet relies heavily on synchronized attacks. Disrupting that would give us a significant advantage." Hargrove felt a glimmer of optimism. "Excellent. Let's make sure every ship is equipped with these disruptors." He turned to Daniels. "Prepare the fleet. We need to be ready for when they return." Daniels saluted, his face reflecting the same determination that Hargrove felt. "We'll be ready, sir." As the fleet prepared, sensors detected the approach of the Zogarian armada. This time, their numbers were even greater. Hargrove called an emergency meeting. "They're coming back, and they're bringing everything they have. We need to be smarter, faster, and more united than ever before." The fleet mobilized, each ship bristling with the new technology. Hargrove addressed the crews via the communication network. "We've faced them before and survived. We've learned from that encounter. Today, we fight not just for survival, but for victory." As the Zogarian fleet entered Earth's orbit, the battle commenced. The Terran ships, now equipped with advanced shields and disruptors, moved with newfound confidence. Hargrove's strategy was to lure the Zogarians into a trap, using the disruptors to sow confusion and chaos among their ranks. The initial skirmishes went as planned. The disruptors worked perfectly, causing several Zogarian ships to lose coordination and collide with each other. Daniels, monitoring the battlefield, reported the progress. "Captain, the disruptors are having a significant impact. Their formation is breaking apart." Hargrove issued new orders. "Focus our fire on their flagship. If we can take it down, the rest will follow." The Resolute led the charge, its weapons targeting the heart of the Zogarian fleet. Explosions rippled through the enemy ranks as Terran firepower found its mark. Suddenly, an alert flashed on Hargrove's console. "Captain, we're detecting a massive energy buildup on the Zogarian flagship," Shaw warned. "They're preparing a superweapon." Hargrove's mind raced. "We need to disable that weapon. All ships, concentrate your fire on the flagship's power core." The battle intensified. The Terran ships unleashed a relentless barrage, but the Zogarian flagship's defenses were formidable. "We need more firepower," Daniels said urgently. "Our current rate of attack won't be enough." Hargrove made a quick decision. "Prepare the Resolute for a direct assault. We're going in." As the Resolute closed in on the flagship, enemy fire intensified. The ship shook under the impact, but Hargrove remained resolute. "Hold steady. We're almost there." The Resolute's weapons locked onto the flagship's power core. "Fire!" Hargrove commanded. A blinding explosion rocked the battlefield as the flagship's power core detonated. The shockwave rippled through the Zogarian fleet, causing widespread destruction. The remaining Zogarian ships, now leaderless and disoriented, began to retreat. Cheers erupted on the Resolute's bridge. Hargrove turned to his crew, his expression a mix of relief and pride. "We did it. We've broken their assault." Shaw and Zalara exchanged a triumphant glance. "The disruptors worked better than we could have hoped," Shaw said. Zalara added, "They'll think twice before challenging us again." As the fleet regrouped, Hargrove knew the battle had been won, but the war was far from over. "We need to stay vigilant. They will return, but so will we, stronger and more prepared." He looked around at his team, the sense of unity and purpose clear. "For now, let's take this victory and build on it. Earth stands strong today because of all of you." With the immediate threat averted, the focus shifted to rebuilding and preparing for the future. The Zogarian menace had been repelled, but vigilance was essential. As Hargrove gazed out at the stars, he felt a renewed sense of determination. The fight for Earth continued, but so did their resolve to protect it.